Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing on Dr. Martin Trevino on the line. He's a cognitive neuroscientist and chief scientific officer. Hey, Dr. Marty, welcome to the show.
How are you, Adam? It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Dr. Marty. So I'll tell you, we've been working hard and laboring. We got an event coming up next week for LA Tech Week, where you will be the keynote speaker. And let me tell you, we are thrilled. I know you and I have been doing some work on the back end, talking about your keynote, some of the things you'll talk about, and really what you plan to deliver to the audience. And we'll get into all of that. Plus, I'm interested to get your take on how the VCs and also the C-suite should be approaching this market cycle when it comes to vetting tech investments, which is what you're known for, and one of the reasons we asked you to speak at the event. But before we get started with all that, Marty, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Marty, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Marty, what mission matters to you?
Yeah, I'm a theoretical scientist and tech executive. The driving mission in my life really is an endless search for the truth and the art of the possible in human computer AI complementarity.
Yeah. It's great. I love bringing mission-based executives and entrepreneurs on the line to share, why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn from that so that we all grow together. So great having you on. And I guess just to get us kicked off, give us a little bit more of your background and your history and really what got you set on this path. Like, how did you get started?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. The short version of that. Went to college and wanted to serve our country afterward, and had the rare luck and privilege of being hired by the National Security Agency of the United States, the NSA, and rose to the rank of senior technical officer with them. And they, at one point, they said, we really want to understand how human beings make decisions, particularly high-risk decisions with data, so we can better inform, generals and admirals and very senior civilian leaders. Can we make smarter decisions with data? So they sent me back to school, and a few years of a doctoral program later, I came back with a new appreciation of how the human brain makes decisions, first off, and then how, in fact, specializing, how does it make high risk decisions with data, and how do we trust technology? And what you find out, in deep study there is that we don't make decisions like we think we do. And we don't trust technology like we trust human beings. So I kind of combined that with being a technologist, and now I approach complementarity between humans and technology and AI from the perspective of the human brain.
Yeah. It's great. And I love bringing mission-based executives on the line and entrepreneurs to share, why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn from that so we grow together. So great having you on. And so from, government intelligence to tech exec, give us a little bit of that transition. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I stumbled and fell down the stairs and hit my head and woke up there. Served had the great privilege of serving my country with some of the most awesome people in the world. Supported us through multiple challenges overseas, and a few years ago, just decided that it's a really big world, and the intelligence community isn't. It's a very cool place, but it isn't the only place where you can make an impact, and you see digital transformation happening. We're living through another renaissance of AI right now. Advanced analytics, and you see companies and executives, really doing everything they can to create our future, right? With innovation, with productivity, and solve wicked problems in the world. And I thought maybe I can be lucky enough to help.
So, obviously let's just say the government complex, one thing, working with C-suite and, VCs and other, individuals in decision-making positions to make, allocate dollars and funds to technology, different technologies and different tech. I would argue two different worlds. What drew
Yeah,
you to
yeah,
what drew you to the private sector, like kind of specifically working with that C-level suite and VCs? Like, what's the difference?
yeah. So there, in some cases the differences are very stark, right?
Mm,
The motive for for their overarching motives can be very different. The clearest and lowest resolution is, one serves the people and security, and the other
mhm.
serves the shareholders and investors. But it's not that simple, right? We all tend to work on very wicked problems, problems that are not easily solved. An old mentor said, you can thank your father for having solved all the easy problems. The hard ones are left now to your generation. Yeah, thanks. But no, they're just different, different problems in some cases. But at the end of the day, we're really driving the same things, right? We
Mm,
want desirable strategic outcomes for the firm, for our people, employees,
mhm.
our consumers, even the greater, our people and brothers and sisters all over, all over the country
Mhm.
and the world. So it's just another set of problems, from a different lens. And I've had the privilege of helping some very, very smart people,
Mm,
drive their digital transitions and figure out where to invest
yeah,
in new models.
yeah. Well, and Marty, I can't have you on the line and on an interview and not bring up Chat GPT right now. I mean,
Mhm.
it's in the news constantly. I feel like, every other day you read a headline where it's going to
Yeah.
displace something or some changes there. I'm just curious from your vantage point, having been, working with technology so long, like how do you feel that the suite should be kind of approaching or thinking about this next phase of, Chat GPT or whatever this new era is we're entering?
Yeah. So a number of lenses. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, one, what we have today can very strongly be argued is not artificial intelligence.
Mm,
Let's be very clear. There's
yeah.
so much hype out there, and people, oh, AI, AI, AI. Okay, if you begin with the perspective of the human brain, okay,
Mhm.
as I do, what we have today is not artificial intelligence. It's not a general purpose intelligence. They are more aptly called advanced information processing and synthesizing systems.
Yeah.
Okay, in very advanced ways, they can take massive amounts of data. Okay, in case of ChatGPT, very large language models,
Mhm.
train them up, and with a series of algorithms and mathematics that correlate, pull things together and create and enable this beautiful, large artificial neural net to produce what it believes are the correct answers. Right.
Mhm.
We've also seen how often they are wrong. Very, very, very shockingly so. Okay, but one of the cool things is they enable trust in a fundamentally different way than a dashboard would. And that's
Mm,
cause for really cool research. Why is it that we trust answers from ChatGPT when we would question the data in a pie chart, on our dashboard, when they could be saying the same thing? And part of it might be the natural language, processing unit. But but as we go forward, one, understand it's not artificial intelligence, and general purpose, real artificial intelligence is not a question for our generation. It's a question
mm.
maybe for the next or even the next century. And certainly Terminators falling out of the sky. Those conversations permeate to, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the economy. Um, no, just
Mhm.
no. And how I channel the conversation with people who are investing in this technology or
Yeah.
bringing in, digital transformations in the C-suite is the overwhelming majority of
Mm.
our exponential order of magnitude gains, right,
Yeah.
are going to be from one thing, and one thing at its core, and that's human AI technology complementarity.
Mm.
How can we bring these new models of AI and the coming ones that are, even cooler and very specific, driven algorithms, if you will, for some very specific functions? How can we pull all this together in a way that's going to complement the human brain, and
Mm.
produce and produce something that's awesome, right? That's going to do innovation, design, those big things. We will replace people, to certain levels, you're going to get 10 or 20% improvements in productivity, but that's all incremental. That's just incremental. I mean, it's good, and they need to, moving boxes, performing rapid calculations back and forth. That's fine, but the overarching way we are going to get order of magnitude improvements in problem solving and rate of return, return on investment, is going to be new models of combining humans and technology.
Yeah. And what do you, and I want to go maybe a step or two further into this idea of digital transformation, because I feel like sometimes maybe the term digital transformation and AI and all these things, they kind of get overlapped or kind of thrown in the same conversation, but they're different, right? Like, because there's different levels of digital transformation, whether it's productivity, whether there's, I mean, for some companies, to take it to its very basic level, digital transformation can mean going online and finally selling their product online, like things like that. Like, so maybe can you, from your vantage point, give us a little bit of an insight into just digital transformation in general?
Yeah. So, I tend to focus at the higher level with how are the advanced technologies going to mate up with human beings in a way to be seamless extensions of the human brain, right? So we see examples of that, or even the human self. So we see a couple of good examples. A few years ago, NASA built a artificial intelligence bot, if you will, but really machine learning set of algorithms to find new planets based on pictures from their telescope. And a NASA scientist, senior technologist, technical data science type, stood up and said, "This is one of the most sophisticated machine learning compilations we've ever put together, and we can just run it by itself." And of course, someone said, "Well, maybe we want to put this out to the world and have human beings, even novice astronomers, who have big, wonderful telescopes and love doing this. Should we get their input too?" And they said, "No, nothing is ever going to beat this machine learning algorithm. Nothing." And so they turned it loose, and it went out and found several hundred planets. But you go back and they did the math, and they said that this is not enough for the amount of space that's out there. We can prove mathematically there's a lot more out there. And of course the data science types were just bewildered. Well, no, the machine learning is the most awesome thing ever created. Well, so NASA did the beautiful thing, and they put it out to the world for amateur astronomers. And the amateur astronomers went and found, I believe it was 300 more planets in this one small space that the AI did not find. And it was one of the very high-end, most beautiful examples that humans and computers not only don't compete with each other, they are complementary, and they are also fundamentally different. The human brain and what we have today with advanced information processing systems, they are categorically different. But if we mate the two of them and we can find new models of mating them together, right, we can do absolutely phenomenal things. A lower level example, digital transformation, is restaurants today. So go back, I'll date myself, go back 20 years ago, and you walked into a restaurant and you met a smiling face of hostess, and that person had a board with a erasable marker, and they had to scan out looking for the open tables, and then they went back and they tapped the server on the shoulder and said table at 42, and then they turned in a paper ticket. Okay, today what technology offers, state-of-the-art restaurants, is so beyond that, right? How do you make a reservation today? Well, you use Open Table or any one of other, 10 other apps, right? So they know when you're coming. So they can run simple queuing algorithms that tell them exactly how many people to walk in at exactly what time and exactly what the wait will be. All the guesswork is taken out of it, right? So how many fewer angry guests because you're missing the amount of time they have to wait for a table? Far fewer. How much stress on that host person or two? far less. And then the server, they don't have to go tap the server. They set the server down. They have a tablet. They tap it, and the server gets an awareness that a table was sat at, table 42, and even the manager's made aware that this person, and they can also judge the number of tables that person has based on their, on their strengths that are inputted by the manager. And everything is linked to that, right? The ordering system, the food replenishment system, every meal that they take into account has the exact amount of corn, green beans, and meat that was used, and that can be referenced to how much is left over. All their shrink can be automatically determined. Wow, right?
Yeah.
Revolutionized by entirely new models of human technology being put together. How many people lost their jobs at restaurants? Well, some did.
Yeah.
Some did, because there are restaurants, I fly a lot, and there are restaurants and airports that you go in, and it's just the little, the iPad, and you can order things on the iPad, and one person brings it out to you. So, are there changes? Yes. Okay. But I would argue that's not the best restaurant experience.
Yeah.
Not for me anyway. I much prefer a great restaurant in the city where technology and humans are combined, and I get the best of both worlds. So those are two high and a low end example that kind of show what transformation, but also had NASA approached the finding new planets from a human AI complementarity model, they would have known immediately to have put it out to human beings, and they would have even built the artificial intelligence so that the human beings could interact with those machine learning models.
So great examples, by the way, Marty. And so looking at, companies, there's a lot of leaders that'll watch this, whether, they're VCs, they're C-level execs. And I think as business owners, as executives, we all, try to and strive to make, data-based decision making. But as we start, going further and further, where do you find, especially when you're getting into companies, that maybe the way the data is interpreted or the way we're approaching the data, where do you find there's some opportunity areas there many times?
Oh, there's so many opportunities. They're almost endless. So start with strategy at the highest level. Okay. You define that digital transformation, or you'll define funding that new tech company, which, oh, by the way, every one of them is going to come forward and say, we have AI at the center of our platform, right? Just get past that. Okay, yes. Now let's start peeling the onion off. That's the low resolution version, right? When you say, what's the strategy out there? Now, VCs will take a different philosophy, and let's touch on that for just a minute, right? In their magnificent book, 0 to 1, Peter Thiel and Blake Masters lay out from a VC perspective seven overarching tenets that have to be there for you to get to really up the probability of returns. And because they're very correct, we live in a power law world, and what you're going to find is one investment in your portfolio is going to outperform all others. Okay, and maybe a second investment is going to get as much, as 50 or 50%, the other 50%. And it's a power law, but it also goes back to to the things we know, that the Pareto distribution. Okay, 80%, 20%, right? But so what we need from I'll say introducing a deep understanding of how human beings interact with technology. We can approach it from a technology first, right? Will this thing provide unique insights, right? Is it revolutionary technology? Will it have enduring value? Okay, those things are right that they put in their book. They're phenomenal. But we need one level deeper. Is my thinking now? We need let's call it a first principles underneath each one of those before you pour money into this, right? What are first principles of human technology complementarity that are centric, right? That are centric, to the human being, and that one of those. Let's just pick a couple of them. That the human brain, when it makes decisions, the centers of the brain that make decisions do not also control analytic functions. So the part of your brain that makes a decision, it controls emotion and trust, but the part that conducts data analytics and analysis doesn't do that. But and another tenet: when updating your mental model, we use 6 times more information from we believe to be true than what we just saw with our eyes. So someone who says, well, we've created a whole new set of dashboards. Okay, you haven't fundamentally overcome this new first principle, right? That should be underneath that revolutionary concept that's out there, right? How are you overcoming this, right? And so one answer, like ChatGPT, is they've overcome some of that with a trust factor. The new interfaces and the natural language processing overcomes the human brain's resistance to trust in some forms of technology. So that's pretty cool. And then you go further and further. So that's part of that. From a digital transformation perspective, again, we made I'll be inflammatory. We made a huge error in the way we approach digital transformations, and that we approach it from a technology, from a data science, lens, and we know this to be true, right? You don't need a doctorate degree for this. Talk to any executive. Tell me about your digital transformation. Oh, and the launch into the technology, the cloud, the ML underpinning it, right? Here's how we forward face to the customers. La la la. When you say, okay, that's the technology. Internally, how are you mating it to human beings? And do you have a human factors component to that digital transformation strategy? What's the human factors analysis, right? Because if you want to build the most awesome new models of human computer AI complementarity, you have to begin with the human factor. You have to begin with the human brain. And we so often begin in the exact opposite. And the level of knowledge is very cursory, right? So if you say, how do you build trust in data? Right? You want people to make decisions. We want to be a data-driven organization. You want to drive data-driven decision making into the DNA of the firm, right? One of those overspoken things in the last 10 years. And you say, okay, how are you creating trust in data? And unless you happen to have spent many years studying this, you just generally don't know. And so some people say, well, we create traceability in the data. Traceability doesn't build trust. We know that from study after study. Right, and we've seen that at the decision suite, where data scientists or business intelligence specialists will present all the data, and they've got beautiful analytics and beautiful graphs and charts and even a compelling story. And the decision maker, after listening to all of that, still looks at them and says, "Yeah, I hear you, Adam, but my gut tells me to go that way."
Yeah.
And I've learned to trust my gut, Adam. So good presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go with my gut.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there saying, well, wait a minute.
We did all this work. We did all this.
What happened here? And you're right. And that was one of the things that embarked me on this career. And what you just saw was that complex dance of things happening in the brain, of how we analyze data and how we make decisions. On the tactical level, right, the implementation level, there are many things that we can do. Again, with some of these newly developed first principles, right? So we're bringing 3D into visual analytics nowadays. And someone says, well, what's the value of 3D? And say, well, the human brain learns through movement. It learns through vertical, horizontal, and hierarchical explorations of the world we live in. Okay. And it does this through movement. Well, there's no two-dimensional traditional dashboard that allows you to do anything but click from one graph to the other. Yeah. And that's helpful, but it's a huge barrier between, technology. There is a barrier. We overcome it in many ways, but again, we resist the data in many types of decisions. So can we develop user interfaces that allow our analysts and people to explore data in exactly the way that the human brain learns? And that's a whole different beginning to the problem than, we've selected this technology and this stack and here's the data that we're getting. Great, but you left the human being out of it.
Well, Dr. Marty, first off, I already know as you and I have been working with each other and kind of prepping for what's coming next. So just for everybody watching this, on June 7th, Dr. Marty is going to be flying out to LA for LA Tech Week, and he's going to be doing the keynote for an event that we're holding. Just to give everyone a flavor of what you plan to bring, what can the audience expect, Dr. Marty?
Yeah, some inflammatory statements like this, right?
I'm in. Hey, you're a wild card. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm like, most
no,
tech guys I get on the show or I see on stage, they're not wild cards. You're a wild card. I love it.
yeah, no. I will make the argument
Mhm.
that the single overarching determinant of uniqueness and success for all current and new businesses being funded for the next few decades is one thing: human technology, AI, models of complementarity. That is where we're going to get the overwhelming majority of our goodness. And so maybe we can change thinking just a little bit from its current to something that helps us discover, the art of the possible.
Yeah. All right, and I'm going to cut you off there. Why? Because I want people to show up, man. we're not going to give it all today to them. But switching topics from that, and by the way, for everybody watching this, there'll be links and other things like that, so that you can just really click on the links and you can see the registration page. And love to have you come out and to see you and to meet you in person. But that being said, Dr. Marty, I mean, you got a lot going on. There's no shortage of C-suite execs, VCs that you work with, and really tech ideas, and whether it's AI or otherwise, that people are vetting. And I know that's one of your specialties. Just have to ask, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for your career?
Oh, wow. Do really awesome things for people every day. So I currently work with a couple of Silicon Valley firms that range from cyber and enterprise risk, right, to call it how can we fundamentally look at the enterprise and its uniqueness differently. So bringing in advanced concepts like high dimensional space and associations with hypergraphs and three-dimensional exploration, to that will fundamentally change their digital transformations. Can we develop this entire set of underlying first principles for those investing in companies, for venture capitalists, that will give them a wonderful set of questions to dive 2 layers deeper, than what's traditionally presented, at like a Series A, type funding event, that are going to help them pick out that 1 or 2 firms that are going to yield 10x. In terms of their investment, because that's what makes or breaks.
Fantastic. And Marty, if somebody's listening to this and they want to follow up and they want to connect and learn more and to follow your work, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn is always fantastic. I'm on LinkedIn, and I think you guys have the link. Yeah, if you publish that. And again, I'm one of the easiest guys to talk to. I'm not concerned, with minutes of my time or anything like that. So just shoot me something on LinkedIn and say, hey, would like to talk more, and I'm happy to have a Zoom coffee conversation with anybody.
Fantastic. And we'll definitely put your LinkedIn link in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the link and head right on over and connect with you. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, why they do what they do, and what we can all learn from that so that we all can grow together. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And again, Dr. Marty, man, really been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again for coming on the show.
It's my honor. I look forward to seeing you, Adam. Stay out of trouble.